Okay. Something that people would need parking passes and tickets for at Beaver Stadium would be a football game, but it might also be, going back to our initial conversation, a wrestling match at Beaver Stadium. Carter Strachey tweeted pretty much shortly after he was announcing that he's coming back. I had the tweet here. It was, "Now let's sell out Beaver Stadium in November." Eyeball emoji. Um, my first initial thought is November's a little late, but I do recognize when wrestling season starts. Um, that's a little late, a little risky based off of how many times have November games we've seen parking lots be closed, and then you have to shuttle from the Grange County Fair. Um, I don't know. Um, I think it would be fun. Here's my question to you: how do you set up the mat? Do you set it up at the 50-yard line and try to pack 100,000 people in there, or do you maybe get some temporary stands?
Yeah, I think you stick it in an end, right? And you stick it closer to the south end. I mean, you can sell tickets and you can move it, right? You can say it's going to be here and it can move a little bit to get you more if you need to. But if you're going to put it near an end, you put it near the south end because that's where the money is, right? With the suites and the Nittany Lion Club stuff and whatever else and the student section. And you can still get, even if you get 50,000 in half the stadium, that still breaks the wrestling attendance record. Now it'll be so interesting to see how that plays out, right? Because their first home match last year was December 3rd. Well, no, they had the All-Star. Oh, yeah, the first team match is December 3rd against Lehigh, right? So, and the way Iowa did it when they did it years ago, 6 or 7 years ago now, they did it before a home football game and did it early and then did it late. And you could do that, but that November 2nd game, and we'll talk about this in a little bit against Ohio State, man, I would in my bones feel that's not going to be a late game depending on who has picks, right? Depending on how the
Yeah.
weekends fall. And then you're looking at November 9th against Washington. Those are your two options. It's not going to be the late one against Maryland. So you could do it beforehand. I mean, the Super Bowl does a concert at halftime. They roll in a stage and do whatever else. You could do that. You could put some heaters underneath it to make sure the mats aren't rock hard so somebody doesn't get slammed down and really beat up. I could see the images of that if it's cold, as long as it's not,
The images
God,
would
if
be very
it's
neat.
but if it's slippery or wet, I mean, but you put a thing over top of it, right? I mean, they do that for concerts, they do that for pro wrestling outside. It can all be done. I guess and we'll never know. And the only people that would ask are sitting here probably. Like, what's the ROI on it? Well, I mean, I get you're going to get 5,000 people in rec hall for a home match, 6,000. So you can get 10 times that much, maybe 50,000 here. But then how much does the setup cost you? But if you do it on a home football game, you've already got some of the infrastructure done. So as you're allowing, whatever, although the tickets would be different, all of it can be figured out. It would be very cool. If you do it, there has to be a reason to do it, just other than just because you can, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
Now,
about where I'm
if
at with it. Go ahead.
you're pushing to set the record, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Let's set the record and incentivize Penn State fans who love that crap. And there's going to be 100,000 people in town anyway for a home football game, so you'd be able to get them in, get them out.
Are
Um,
are there 100,000 Penn State wrestling fans? Oh, sorry. Are there 75,000 Penn State
if they're
wrestling?
already here, sure, right? Like if what if they make a deal? And again, I don't know how much they do it, but if you already have a football ticket, right, for the game, and your wrestling ticket is
I
$15,
Oh, I
or
think you have to. I think I was thinking about this when he initially tweeted this. I think you have to be willing to give up tickets. Like I think you have to, if you're the athletic department, have to just give tickets away to get people in the door to set that record. Because like you're going to every state little like little league wrestling association in the state and handing out wrestling tickets and saying, "Here's 20 tickets. Come." And then you got to sell it
yeah,
off
but
of
they've got to
merch
deal
and
with a Saturday. They've got to deal with a home Saturday football game if that's what it is, right?
I
They're not
don't.
going to just do that. You've
That's
got to
why I
deal with
don't.
the audience that's there.
That's why I don't
Maybe your
know if it
season
would
ticket
work.
holders for wrestling have great VIP access. They're on the field, or they get to choose some seats. Or they can do whatever.
What
I,
about
I think there's 40. I think there's 45 of the people who are coming who would say they were there just to see it.
okay? But can I guess that does
Easily
get
that
you.
number.
I think that does get you butts in the seats for the following football game.
Yeah.
Like Because like
You know,
you're right. Because if you do it at
if you
Ohio
do
State,
Matt
definitely.
side in the morning at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, right? These guys have wrestled at tournaments at weird ass starting times before, so that's not a big deal. You do Matt side morning or whatever else. Wake up in Beaver Stadium at 9. They go back out, they tailgate again, they come back in for the night game.
I was gonna say the opposite. What about football? Well, football game
What if the team loses? What
loses.
if they do it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're risky. Look at us trying to solve the athletic department's problems here.
And they've got the problem is we could probably get. Never mind.
All right. Save that one for
We
later.
could get to an answer. We could get to an answer that would be satisfactory. That they're going to have a room full of people figuring out for weeks on end. And maybe they've already got it figured out. And if they do, kudos to them.
He
I hope it comes
wouldn't
out
have
well.
said that. Like that's the other thing here. Clearly, there's something in the air, and I think
No, that was like the countdown clock for whatever opponent they had for them a couple years ago. Was it West Virginia? Where like it was this many hours and days till we play somebody and it came up on the clock and people did the math and it was
yeah, it
did,
was
did,
last
did
year.
Micah do that for somebody or last year for West Virginia against us or us against West Virginia, right? And they did the math and they're like, oh, we're playing a night game.
Yeah, I like that. He wouldn't. Carter wouldn't have said that without knowing something. Like
Oh no.
it doesn't make it. So
So that's what's exciting about it, right? So is it Ohio State or Washington? Is it November 2nd or November 9th?
well, I guess I think
Now,
it's
unless they know that Fox doesn't have the pick and isn't going to make Ohio State a big noon, or unless they know Fox is going to say, you know what, we're going to do one of our 7:30 games on November 2nd.
I think it would be
Although
that
I don't know if they have
The
a 7:30.
Washington game makes more sense than the Ohio State game, just because of it being a West Coast team being at night.
Yeah, there's no way.
Who
Yeah.
do you? But I think the other thing here is you can't just put like Edinburgh in. You can't put
Oh
Lehigh
no, it's
in.
got to
It's
be.
got to be Iowa or Ohio State as the
Yeah.
opponent.
Yes.
And are they going to agree to
Or
that?
Michigan.
Are any of
They
those
aren't going
schools
to.
going to agree to that?
They can't not agree, right? Like like in terms of the
What's
sport,
that thing? There's like a little thumbs
I
up.
saw it.
That was
They
weird.
they they can't not agree. Because it's for the good of it's good for the good of wrestling. I mean, they can't sit there and be insular and worry about their sport all the time. And if something like this is sat before them and Penn State says, here you go, here's the solution, here's how it's going to work. God, we got it, we got you hotel rooms, we got it all figured out. It's going to be weird, it's going to be different, but think about what's going to happen for wrestling. Although I don't know that that's much going to happen for
I
wrestling because
that's
it's a
what I was
football
just gonna say.
Saturday.
That's what I was just
I
gonna
mean,
say.
really, the images are going to look cool, but you tell me what's going to be on Sports Center or Big Ten, the Big Ten TV network afterward or whatever else.
It's not. It's just
On
not.
Final Drive, they got a whole show dedicated to football the next day. Final Drive, it's
Yeah,
going to repeat hour after hour. They're going to show three clips from wrestling, show you a big crowd thing. So it gets back to, is it worth it? Like I just, but
I think it's
if
a
you
we can
get
do this thing. I think that's what it is.
right, and if you get 50,000 tickets and you sell enough bunch of coffee and hot chocolate, if it's the morning one, and do something else, maybe you make your extra $100,000 you didn't think you were going to make, and that's not nothing.